Alright, so this is the current build of the project I'm working on. It's supposed to be a gallery space. Initially I was just needed a space in order to experiment with textures, but then I started getting more and more interested in the development of the space itself, and so it's basically a gallery with different areas for display that provides different context for different pieces, and then it doesn't actually have any pieces in it yet, and these colors are unlit. Yeah, they're placeholders that are just there so that I have a reference and Simon has a reference, so that when we're discussing what to do, we'll be able to be like, oh, you know, that orange wall, the big orange wall on the main floor. So, for instance, this would be the main floor, right? So, in the course of the game, different walls shift. I'm still working on the timing and which walls shift when and that type of thing. But I'm getting to the place where I'm becoming somewhat familiar with this space, and I'm starting to have some attachments. Like, I'm pretty sure that that first movement's going to be that movement. And the reason for it is because I want to be like looking at this painting or looking at this painting when that wall first shifts, to kind of give people a delightful surprise that the architecture which they're taking for granted is actually shifting. And then they can be curious and excited when they hear the noise again. So this is actually a recent addition, putting that in this rough hill. I'm still trying to figure out if I want this to raise up at the end, or if I want this to go down at the end. But there's a whole floor below. The water level's going to go down when this courtyard lowers. But what's that? I have not seen your DS. Okay, so I've been thinking about what my intentions are with this piece, and it's mostly, I mean, the simplest thing to say is that I want an interesting simulated space to display more two-dimensional works, but I'm also interested in putting Simon has offered to make some 3D models, and for instance, like, I've been thinking like they might like sit on pedestals such as these columns, because I think it'd be kind of cool to you know, initially see these from below as kind of like these you know, literally on pedestals, and then as you wander up here, you see them at eye level, so that type of thing. But the basic idea is that I want to create a gallery space that does have interesting transformations, which provide different context for the works that you're examining. I'm probably going to slow down the timer a lot so that this stuff happens over a much longer course of time. It's just in a testing pace right now, because, you know, I'm going to want someone, I don't want people to be like, you know, just, I want them to be waiting for something to happen, but I want them to have enough time to wait where they're actually examining the pieces and giving them more patience because they have a reason to be here. So, for instance, you know, someone's just staring at this and being like, okay, well, I know that when I hear a sound, there will be a transformation, and then I can go and find the transformation. But until then, I don't hear a sound, so I can just examine what's available. And hypothetically, this purple wall will be an interesting piece of art when the game is done. I'm playing along, or I'm playing around with the idea of are the pieces going to be designed for the space and not? And I'm definitely leaning towards the pieces should be influenced by the space that they're going to take up in this gallery. But at the same time, I don't want it to be so specific that I'm unwilling to use the gallery again for additional pieces. I'm not sure if I'll ever do that, but conceptually, I want the gallery to be neutral enough that pieces in it could be replaced, and there would still be a familiarity with the space. What else? Yeah, I'm not really sure what all I'm going to put in here, or what Simon's going to come up with. But so all of those transitions that have already happened are the only ones that actually occur currently. I'm not sure if I'm going to add any in. I don't want to make so many transformations that admittedly gimmick that gimmick becomes dominant, and people end up optimizing by just kind of like wanting to see all of that. I do want them to examine the pieces. Here's some of the ideas I have about that. So, for instance, I'm really interested in the pieces being too large for the field of view. Especially, I'll show you. Especially up here, this first piece that you encounter, which is this blue one. It's like kind of uncomfortable in how you can't back up any farther. Like, you can jump up this wall, but that's not a comfortable position really, because you're on a wall. So initially you're going to see this piece and it's going to be too big. But then when you wander up here, you see it in a different context of you're more eye level with it, and you can see it in your field of view. But by the time this happens, you have the context of this wall. So which can have the same initial impression. I'm also interested in the way this piece is now occluded. So originally that orange piece is going to be right here. So hypothetically, that corner is important, but I want there to be an awareness when creating whatever piece goes on there that corner will disappear. It might be something gimmicky, like having half of a face on that pink corner, and then it matches up, like some sort of like folding a book or folding a page to get a different picture, like how people fold dollar bills to like see different pictures or whatever. Or it might be something a lot more subtle. But I do want to be aware of that. I'm still, like, the columns seem like a good idea to me. I've thought about taking them out a lot of times, or moving them, and of course columns can go elsewhere too, but the way I'm envisioning it currently is that instead of just one texture, I'm planning on separating all of these surfaces so that there's a small painting there, a small painting there, a small painting there, a small painting there, and so on. But another option would be to do something like make a larger piece go across it, and then have them occluded with these staggered columns, which could also be interesting. I was thinking about overall theme as far as what can unify the art show, and I don't really have one, but I kind of think one might develop. So one of the reasons I'm making this piece is because I played Electric Highways, and it got me thinking a lot about delightful three-dimensional spaces that morph in some way, and their capacity to display aesthetics. So I read an article by Omar Elasser, I believe is how you pronounce it, their name, and they mention not specifically about electric highways, but they mention theater as a perspective through which you can look at video game artifice, and that really resonated with me as far as what the reason I appreciate electric highways, and so I am currently really interested in that theater artifice, which is basically suggesting spaces rather than creating literal representations of them with fidelity. So this gallery space, I'm seeing the gallery space itself as a simulated space with high fidelity, not necessarily because like the textures are, or not because the construction looks realistic or anything, but just because it's a base. It's a base from which the player is viewing the artifice, and the artifice in this case would be the actual displayed 2D textures, which will be displayed like paintings, and sculptures, and some blend in between. I've played around a little bit with like separating, creating multiple surfaces on a 2D surface, and then pulling them out and pushing them in a little bit in order to highlight things on existing textures, and also to create surfaces to add native textures. So that's what I'm seeing as the artifice is the pieces, and the gallery itself is less theater, as in the spirit of theater, but more of the building in which it can occur. And I'm hoping that theme will be something that I can unify the pieces with, but I'm not going to hold to it so much that I have analysis paralysis. So I do like the idea of suggesting spaces, and the closest example I can think of that is Oneric Gardens. Even though Oneric Gardens suggests spaces with non-literal world building, and it's those are three-dimensional spaces that you can wander around. I feel like that's still a pretty good comparison, even though I'm imagining these being, sculptural, like for instance a sculpture here that you can walk around, not so much a world, not an installation, though I am open to having one or two installations in this building. But the reason I bring up Oneric Gardens is because I could see, like, this piece, this red piece being, impressions of the city, or this pink piece being going to the movie store to browse the horror films, right? So I'm not planning on doing those specific things with either of these. I'm just saying that type of subject will be handled in Artifice as I'm filling out the textures, or as Simon does, or if other people are interested in displaying works, I'm open to it. You can contact me at Cafe Fiction, that's one word, on Twitter, or just leave a comment on this video. And this is currently a playable build. I want it to be playable so that Simon can look around, and come to his own decisions.
about what to contribute, and also if you watch this YouTube video and you're fascinated, I want you to be able to play it. It's a work in progress, and if you have something you want to contribute to it, feel free to contact me. Alright, thank you.